He was the object of Don Rickles's greatest loathing. Donald J. Rickles, better known as Don Rickles, was born on May 8, 1926, in Queens, New York. He rose from humble origins to become one of the most renowned performers and comedians of the 20th century. He was born into a Jewish family in the Jackson Heights neighborhood and shown the incisiveness, humor, and quickness of mind that would come to characterize his distinctive style as a child. As for his dad, Max, he was an insurance agent, and his mother was a dedicated homemaker who saw her son's comic potential at an early age. Rickles, hoping to make it big as a dramatic actor in Hollywood or on Broadway, spent a semester at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts after finishing high school. Don Rickles would become an iconic figure in stand-up comedy thanks to his quick wit, keen observational abilities, and innate comic instincts. Returning home after his time serving in the U.S. Navy on the USS Cyrene in the Pacific theater of World War II, Don Rickles found a new sense of purpose. He had a hard time adjusting to civilian life at first, as did many other veterans of his day. His charisma and charismatic demeanor, meanwhile, quickly pulled him into the entertainment industry. Nightclub performances were among Rickles's earliest endeavors in the early 1950s. First steps. As a struggling actor who, in between serious lines, relied on comedy to lighten the mood. After seeing that people were more interested in his rapid-fire comments than in his serious acting efforts, he chose to dive headfirst into comedy, a move that would change his career and make an indelible mark on the entertainment industry. Rickles established a unique position for himself in the comic world by being an early proponent of the insult comedy subgenre. Upon taking the stage, Rickles would go into his caustic humor, aiming it squarely at audience members of all backgrounds, professions, and social statuses, in contrast to the majority of his contemporaries who depended on organized jokes or funny stories. His particular notoriety was earned by Don Rickles' razor-sharp humor, which spared no one from Hollywood icons to everyday fans. Even after roasting someone, they would still love him. His alias, Mr. His remarks could be hurtful, but he always said them with a light-hearted tone and a hint of affection, so his warmth was an ironic play on words. One of the most iconic figures in global history, Frank Sinatra, attended a performance by Rickles in Miami, marking a watershed moment in his early career. Instead of playing it straight, Rickles shamelessly mocked Sinatra's stardom and influence while performing. Sinatra was captivated and ended up becoming one of Rickles's most ardent advocates. He further cemented Rickles' position in Hollywood's exclusive circles by introducing him to other famous people. Not only did this friendship help Rick's career, but it also brought out his courageous self-assurance, which is what made his comedy so appealing. His lightning-fast comments made him a fixture on variety shows like Dean Martin's Celebrity Roasts, and he quickly became a regular on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. Become the most anticipated part of each night. Although Rickles' career was built on stand-up comedy, he was also a gifted actress. He had roles in both serious and light-hearted films, appearing in the former with Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster in 1958's Run Silent Run Deep and the latter in 1970's Kelly's Heroes starring Clint Eastwood. He showed his versatility as an actor by convincingly inhabiting both dramatic and humorous parts. Don Rickles, back in the 70s. He carried his trademark cynicism to television in his own sitcom CPO Sharky, portraying a chief petty officer in the United States Navy whose sharp tongue and biting comments were the show's breakout stars. Simultaneously, Rickles established himself as a mainstay on widely watched talk shows. His career had a strong comeback in the 90s and 2000s when he contributed his distinctive voice to Mr. Potato Head in, which brought out his adored unpredictable nature and knack for making even the most serious hosts burst out laughing. The revolutionary Toy Story movies created by Pixar. This part brought Rickles a whole new audience, and his trademark warmth and sarcasm are now immortalized in animation thanks to him. Rickles, unfazed by the passing of time, maintained his signature brand of humor. Even into his 80s, he kept performing live around the US and in Las Vegas and Atlantic City, confident that his fans could tell his jokes were based on love and not cruelty. Out of the spotlight. The foundation of Rickles' existence was love. His marriage to Barbara Ackler of Philadelphia on March 14, 1965, began a bond that would go on to define him and his life. Millions of people knew Rickles as the seller of venom for his piercing humor, but whenever he talked about Barbara, he would show a sensitive, very dedicated side, demonstrating that there was a man with a huge heart behind the quips. Their union was frequently characterized by colleagues served as Rickles' rock in an industry where ego, fame, and continual pressure could break even the strongest relationships. Even Rickles acknowledged that he had struggled with love. He had a hard time making real connections in his 20s and 30s, even though he was becoming increasingly famous on the comedy circuit. A lot of women were scared off or uninterested in him because of his lightning-fast wit and biting humor, which he loved on stage but which backfired in his personal relationships. Rickles had been a lifetime bachelor when he met Barbara Ackler. His friends had started to question whether he would ever get married at the age of 38. Their rendezvous, set up by his agent, was a complete stroke of luck. Rickles was captivated by Barbara because she refused to be impressed by him, which is ironic. He was captivated by her utter lack of reaction to his jokes and charms. Rickles saw a stark contrast between the superficial mayhem of the entertainment industry and Barbara's serene, grounded personality. Truthful, reliable, and powerful, that was her. For a man whose world was filled with laughing, activity, and noise, this was the ideal equilibrium. They had a family together, and that family was Rickles' universe. Larry and Mindy, their 2 children, each went their own creative way. Larry was a successful producer behind the scenes, while Mindy sought acting so she could add her unique voice to film. Unfortunately, Larry's untimely death from pneumonia at the young age of 41 was a terrible blow to his parents. This was a devastating blow to Dawn and Barbara, who had been through everything together. Rickles, who had dedicated his life to making people laugh, walked around with a secret burden of grief. A poignant reminder that sadness may still seep in, even while all eyes are on you. Don Rickles' life revolved around the happiness of his family, no matter how many heartbreaks he went through. A new and unexpectedly joyful viewpoint on his long career was bestowed upon him by his grandkids, Ethan and Harrison Mann, as he noted in his memoir. His decades-long performances were praised by everyone, yet despite his remarkable impact on humor and his late-night appearances, something lot simpler captivated his grandchildren. Known for his role as Pixar's Mr. Potato Head in the Toy Story films, their grandpa wasn't the daring insult comic who performed for presidents and shared jokes with Frank Sinatra, in their eyes. One of their most cherished animated features featured him as a humorous talking toy. Growing up, this generational twist was a source of great pleasure for Rickles, who frequently joked that a plastic potato had eclipsed all his years of hard labor in show business. For over half a century, his wife Barbara was his rock, supporting him through good times and bad. The ups and downs of Hollywood, parenthood, and the demands of stardom all worked together to strengthen their marriage. Their friends frequently said that their relationship was unique, not because of its glitz but because of how genuine it was. A unique bond formed by steadfast love, humor, and devotion. Their narrative came to a dramatic and sad close when Barbara died of non-Hodgkin lymphoma on March 14, 2021, precisely 56 years after their wedding. They appeared to have an unbreakable bond even in death, as the symmetry of that day captured it. And 4. There were very few people in Hollywood that Don Rickles, better known as the vendor of venom, actually despised. A heart full of love, appreciation, and laughter that would last a lifetime lay beneath the sharp tongue and quick wit. Don Rickles' stinging remarks and razor-sharp one-liners were usually delivered with a wink and a smile, intended to entertain rather than annoy. Charm and good-natured fun lay at the heart of his comedy, which could appear vicious at first. However, Rickles' closest friends and associates claimed that there was one Hollywood star that irritated him more than anybody else. Denzel Washington was that man. Using his brazen humor, Rickles had been able to win over even the most powerful men for decades, roasting everyone from Frank Sinatra to Ronald Reagan. Denzel Washington, though, was a different story. His presence apparently unsettled Rickles like no other star he had ever encountered, he was hard to warm up to and impossible to connect with. According to some on the inside, the conflict was about far more than just disagreeable personalities. When Rickles was in an environment where people were laughing, he would flourish because a simple remark about himself or an insult could break down walls and make everyone laugh. But the nation's capital was a bastion of remains calm, focused, disciplined, and steadfast. He was quite consistent whether he was performing or not. He refrained from laughing or joining in on Rickles's mocking. That dead air was intolerable for the comedian who thrived on audience reaction. For Rickles, Denzel's expressionless reserve was like being rejected, not as a joke, but as an artist in and of itself. Moreover, the fact that Washington's the aura of respect and authority that came with a good reputation was one that prompted awe and admiration rather than scorn. In every character he played, he exuded an air of seriousness and poise that made him the center of attention. In contrast, Rickles embodied disorder, being an expert at causing trouble, making people feel foolish, and showing unexpected vulnerability. Their energies clashed like oil and water. They were both excellent performers, but they couldn't work together. The ones that close to Rickles caught wind of it. Rickles lost some of his vivacious energy whenever Denzel's name came up over the years. The playful tone he used when joking with friends became more severe, icy, and tinged with an underlying edge. Denzel Washington, who seemed to be able to find humor in any situation, had become the joke that never quite hit home. Rumor has it that behind closed doors, Don Rickles was muttering something about the one guy who wouldn't play his athletic event. Guess who doesn't see humor in this? Once, he made a private joke. Affleck, Denzel. Even if you paid the man, he wouldn't chuckle. Mount Rushmore appears to be moving thanks to him. For a comedian whose job it was to make people laugh no matter how hard they tried. There was more to Washington's unwavering defiance than depressing. It hit close to home. Rickles would be equally at home roasting presidents, crime leaders, or Hollywood greats. The wall of Denzel's quiet, though, was too high for him to climb. Laughter was no longer an issue. The themes of pride, connection, and the unyielding audience were essential. For Rickles, laughing wasn't just a kind of amusement. It was a sacred union. Evidence that individuals could find common ground through comedy. He didn't only lose his humor when someone declined to participate. Part of that bond was severed for him. That was the distinguishing feature of Washington. Neither anger nor offense moved him. There was no way to move him. Someone so level-headed that not even Rickles's most venomous insults could sting him. Over time, those in the know noted that any time Washington's name was mentioned, Rickles' tone became more rigid. The mocking poison he had sprayed on everyone else had vanished. A subtle annoyance, bordering on respect and resentment, stood in its stead. Unlike other Hollywood actors, Denzel Washington meant something to Rickles. For all his comedic genius, he remained an enigma. Only he could demonstrated that some individuals could not be moved by a humorous situation. There was complete stillness in the entertainment industry on April 6, 2017. The 90-year-old comedian Don Rickles, who had a loyal following in the United States for more than 60 years, died away at his home in Century City, Los Angeles. A guy whose voice had once captivated audiences with his infectious humor and quick wit has passed away quietly from kidney failure. His humor, meanwhile, remained unfaltering as his health deteriorated. Rickles maintained the same incisive edge that had distinguished him throughout his life, the courageous charisma of a comedian who could both offend and amuse you, right up until his death. The loss of a legend was not the only thing that his death signified. It signaled the end of an era, when stand-up comedy was spontaneous, honest, and intimate, when every joke had a smile that made you feel like you were part of it. People from all walks of life expressed their condolences. On the Hollywood corner, many in the comedy, acting, and directing communities were saddened by his passing. He had become a mentor and friend to many, and he had been idolized by many. In his last years, Rickles cherished spending time with family in his beloved Century City house, which embodied the warmth of the man as well as the grace of classic Hollywood. No matter how old he became, he never formally retired. He persisted in appearing in public, conducting interviews, and contributing his distinctive voice to fresh endeavors. In the Hollywood Hills, at Mount Sinai Memorial Park, the ultimate resting place of innumerable legends, he was laid to rest when he eventually died away. Fans gathered to his grave not just to grieve, but also to rejoice in the joy he brought into their lives through his humor. Don Rickles saw his death as the last bow in a career that would reverberate long after he had away.